I mean, I'm looking good with calling those guys the greatest shooting backcourt ever. And sometimes you just shake your head. I mean, the ability to catch and shoot the basketball with defense all over you, I mean, it's a thing of beauty.
We're going to bring y'all into our huddle.
Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2014, and you are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram. With me, as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
And joining us after a brief hiatus, Justin, trapped in Golden State, Taylor.
Thanks for having me back. I'll be the white mamba today.
We appreciate that, and at the risk of making a very obvious joke, we'll try not to kick you back down to Santa Cruz. Let's use that as our bridge, gentlemen, and jump back in. Golden State is starting the true stretch run, and Brian White Mamba Scalabrine, in fact, just got kicked off the Warriors bench, so you know we got big things to talk about in the Warriors update. We're going to go through all the storylines of the last few games, talk about the White Mamba situation, and maybe, if we got time, go through some of the fairly upsetting things that happened to me during the Warriors Spurs game. And then in a return to one of my favorite topics and one of my favorite subjects we do on the show, the all-huddle team, we're going to put together an all-huddle team of the batshit craziest players in the league. We'll find one for point guard, shooting guard, small forward, the whole 9 yards. Before we do either of those, a couple of show notes. One, Uber is still our sponsor. They are also still my favorite app. If you do not have the time to go track down a cab or the money to pay for it, get the Uber app, press a button, they come to you. Scotty, anything on the Huddle code?
We still got the Huddle code going. Sign up at Uber, enter the Huddle code, the promo code Huddle. And Uber is now in Santa Cruz, so maybe Scalabrine will sign up.
Justin, if you use the demo.
Way to tie that promo in, man.
We're professionals here,
Yes,
Justin.
he's done this
That's
before.
how we roll. And I'll take a different track on the whole Huddle code. Do this to help us. If you guys don't want the $30 every time anybody does that, please sign up for an account. Won't cost you anything, and you can take a ride anywhere you want. Second show note. I'm really eager to talk about this all-huddle team. In fact, it's really my focus of the show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So because of that, we're going to change the structure of the show to save us a little bit of time. We're still going to go through all the storylines, themes, stuff like that from the last few games, but we're not going to do them game by game. Instead, we're going to group them all together and talk about them quickly. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's your show.
Hey, thanks, man. Our show. Past scores, current standings. There have been 3 games by my count since the last time we were under the mic. 103-89 win versus Orlando, 115-110 win over Milwaukee, and a 99-90 loss to San Antonio's JV squad. We're now
Shocking.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of that, man. Warriors are now 44-27, 6th in the West. Scott, you'll be happy to know that I double-checked the standings here so many times, so hopefully you won't be able to bust me out. I believe we're a game behind Portland for 5th. We're 1.5 games ahead of Memphis for 7th, and only 2 games ahead of Dallas, who is in 9th. I get it right?
That's right. We got 11 games left, so this is truly the playoff race.
Are we a playoff team?
The standings say so.
Are we a guaranteed playoff team? Are you worried about that at all, or it's still in the back of your head?
I'm not really worried about it. I would like to stay in. I'm worried about keeping the 6th seed because you don't want to be 7 or 8 and get. Obviously, we can't beat San Antonio, right?
Until you see that little Y or X next to your name, I am always nervous. And is there a better feeling than looking at the standings and seeing that X?
No, not at all, especially for a fan base that waited 20 years to finally see it. And I'll tell you what, man, I've been feeling fairly confident. And then when I did this research, not look stupid, to make sure these standings were right, I was really surprised to see that Dallas is only 2 games behind us. You know, I feel confident. I do think we're a playoff team, but I would have preferred that number to be like 7 or 8. The idea that we're 17 games over and only 2 games into the playoffs is a little bit concerning, right?
We said at the beginning of the season it was 50 wins gets you a playoff spot, and we're still on pace for that.
It looks like 50 wins might get you an 8th playoff spot. You know, it's a little tighter than we like, but I guess
just like the year we were 48 wins and out.
Right. I like to pretend like that didn't happen, but no, that was a year after We Believe, right?
That was.
Plus, Aldridge is coming back for the Blazers, so they've been on a skid with him out. But once he comes back, then you're going to look at that gap, I think, increasing. You're not going to be able to catch Portland.
Sure. So hopefully we'll hold on. I think we can catch Portland, but that's enough about hypothetical stuff. We have enough things to talk about that actually did happen without guessing where the Warriors are going here. Final standing one I'm sure everyone has been waiting for, the power rankings. Mark with a C-Stein is apparently not worried about Dallas or the Warriors' place in the Western Conference standings. He has moved us up yet again. Only one spot, but we are now 8th, up from 9th last week. So
screw Mark with a C Stein. I go with the NBA.com power rankings.
Oh.
They have us number 5, which means we're an obvious playoff team, right? I mean, if we're the 5th best team in the league, we're guaranteed a playoff spot, right? Can't they just go ahead and put that X next to our name now? We're number 5.
Why are they even playing the games, man? I was going to say the NBA.com rankings were like the Betamax version, but if they have it at 5, then I take that fact. Clearly, they know what the hell they're talking about. All right, let's jump in, guys. There have been 3 games. Like I said, let's talk storylines as opposed to stat lines. We don't have to go through the actual games. First one, I want your guys' opinion on, and first thing I noticed from these last few, Splash Brothers have been special. They, I think, have shown that we're set up to have the best backcourt possibly for the next 5 years. We can argue about that in a second. First, just a kind of quick recap. Against Orlando, they sparked an 18-0 run in the third, sealed the game, and dropped 53 points collectively. Against the shit-ass Bucks, they put up 60 points. And in a fairly lackluster, kind of crappy game, they only ended up in 30 or with 36 against the Spurs. But these guys have been putting it up and putting it up impressively.
That sounded a lot like stat lines and not storylines.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
The stat line leads to the storyline that they have, in fact, been dominant.
No, you led with the storyline and then you buried it with the stats.
No, I created the storyline, then explained to you how I got there.
Okay, well,
thank God we spent time wasting that. I mean, Jesus Christ, have you been impressed with them or not?
I've been more impressed with Klay Thompson, and mainly because he's continuing to drive to the basket and realizing that he can get to the rim. Like, you're, I don't know, 6'7", 6'8", like...
I have a stat for that. Would you like to know what it is?
It's redefining Klay-ups is what that is.
Yeah. You love that term. Klay-ups. Yeah. I would have bet my life that you were going to drive. In fact, I was counting down from 10 to see how far we get. I got to 8.
I've got like 6 graphics based on Klay-ups, man. I got to be able to use them.
I agree with you on Klay. I wish I had more stats just to shove it up your guys' butts. But what's been impressive to me is that this guy is becoming the player I would imagine Jerry West envisioned when they drafted him. He's not just a shooter, although that's incredibly impressive. He has become an elite perimeter defender. He's not settling for crappy jump shots. If he can get to the rim, he's at least trying it. And I mean, I think what we're seeing is the maturation of a young player, rather. And I think a lot of it was pushed forward by that final shot he hit against Indy. You know, it seems like that added confidence, right?
Yeah, that's definitely had an impact on him. I mean, if you don't notice the difference.
Oh my God! I mean, this is a professional show, Bram.
Yeah, go ahead and turn off the phones.
I'm sorry, I actually have people calling me. The fact that you guys know no one who wanted to contact you now, I can't be held responsible for it. It is what it is. Look, I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry.
We turn our phones off, so don't think we're not as popular as you.
I mean, get your panties out of a bunch. Everybody's fine. It took 30 seconds, but I am interested in this, Justin. You weren't with us last week. Hopefully you heard it. Rusty Simmons told us that Klay Thompson was the second best guard in the Western Conference. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, he defends as well as any 2-guard in the Western Conference, and he stretches the defense better than any 2-guard in the Western Conference. And what else is out there right now? It's really not even saying that much.
I
mean, it is, but it isn't, you know?
I mean, what's Klay Thompson doing on a team without a guy like Curry? He's not going to do anything for you.
Our weekly Scott hates Klay for no reason take.
Well, while we're on that topic, then, let me just jump forward to the San Antonio game, where Danny Green had 18 points and 6
Are you serious?
No.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh my God!
How can you still be beating this John Scott?
Right now, you're in the process of defending the Klay for Danny Green proposition.
Go ahead, finish out your thought. Let him hang himself.
All right.
Danny Green had 18.6 rebounds.
Hold on, let me give you a little more rope.
Klay Thompson, 16 points, 2 rebounds.
You know what I've been thinking? I think that we should have our entire opinion about a player in their career just from the San Antonio game. So that's actually a really relevant stat, and you flip me over. There's no question. I would, in fact, trade for Danny Green. Justin?
Based on that game, I guess you have
So
to.
why would we look beyond it? That is such a ridiculous take. That is such a
Would you
ridiculous
trade
take.
Harrison Barnes for Danny Green?
Nope.
He traded him for Brian Scalabrine. F it. Because at one point, way back in the past, he had way more points than Harrison Barnes did. I'm not going to jump down the Danny Green rabbit hole. I don't know if I believe that he's a top 2 guard in the West. Probably Harden somewhere in there. I don't know what Kobe has left, but I have been really impressed. Equally as impressed with Steph. We don't have to go through all the platitudes. We've said it so frequently and so much on this podcast. You guys know how we feel. I will say that Steph had one of the most impressive circus shots I have ever seen against Milwaukee. Here's the radio call on that shot.
Curry will take it to the front court. Curry dribbles down the lane, and he's wrapped up by Middleton. He threw it up, and it went in. It went in. He was wrapped up by Middleton, spinning away from the bucket. You must live a charmed life to get that bucket, as he just flipped it up, and it went in. It was horse-collared by Middleton, threw it up. I guess when you're Steph Curry, those things just happen.
There's no way that went in. His body, as you said, he's like horse-collared going to the left side of the bucket. His whole body was getting spun back to his left, and then just threw it up with his right and dropped it. He completes the three-point play. My goodness.
Did you guys see this play?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I wish the radio broadcast was actually what we got on TV, because hearing Tolbert and Tim Roy describe those plays, and there's always been up until this year, the one thing you knew if it was a great play is you were going to get the Tim Roy unbelievable, right? I'm not going to try to get the tone down.
But you got the syllables, so that
my
was nicely
voice
done.
will crack if I try to get that done. But now we've got the Tom Tolbert chuckle, man. If Tom Tolbert busts out the chuckle, you know something just happened.
Multiple takes there. Let's start from the top. One, I'm proud of you for not using the word clayups in that sentence. Nicely done.
If it was Clay, I would have.
Okay, I can see that. I thought you might
Only
be able
applies to
stretch
one
it.
player.
I can see you trying to stretch it into other things. Who knows? Anyways, congratulations. Two, the play
you.
itself, before we get... No, my pleasure. Before we get to the actual radio call, I was so impressed with this, not because of the difficulty. I mean, to some extent, there's a little bit of luck. He threw it up over it. But if you watch it, he put all types of English on the ball. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't one of those purely lucky shots. It wasn't like he just threw it up and hoped it went. He had an understanding of where he was. He had an understanding of what the ball would have to do off the backboard, and that's exactly what he tried to do. Watch the replay. Hopefully, those on the video podcast will agree with what I'm saying.
Anyone doing that shot would try to put some English on the ball and would throw it against the backboard.
I completely disagree.
Do you think people wouldn't put
Look
English
back to
on?
George Hill and the shot he hit against us in Indy that pissed me all off and that Clay ultimately avenged. What he did is just try to get up a shot. There wasn't any English on the ball. It wasn't the way it was rotating. He just threw it over his head and it happened to go in. That's not what Clay did here. That's not what Steph did here. I think Steph had a much better understanding of exactly where he was on the court and did exactly what was necessary to put the ball in.
He was further to the side of the backboard than that George Hill shot, so he needed to put English on it, and George Hill didn't.
Who the hell knows? My final thing on the actual call, couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I don't think Tolbert has ever said anything without chuckling. I love it. I don't think Tim Roy fakes emotion so that when he does talk about a play, you feel it within it. And I thought of you, Scotty. I mean, the last time we were talking about listening to a game on the radio, and you said you were going down to Fresno, you really like this guy, and it kind of renewed my interest in him. It made me think of you for sure.
I go. You know what I do sometimes is I go on the NBA Game Time app on my phone and let that play through the speakers in my house through AirPlay or whatever. That way you can sync up the TV and the radio, because otherwise the radio's ahead of the TV. You can't pause the TV. But the NBA Game Time app, the internet feed, it's like 45 seconds behind. So it takes a couple minutes to sync it up right.
Technologically savvy.
But to get Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert on the TV, it's worth it.
I completely agree. Before we move on to the next theme and or storyline or set of stats that mean nothing or a call from my wife, here's Mark Jackson talking and reminding us that these guys just might be the best shooting backcourt in the history of the league.
I mean, I'm looking good with calling those guys the greatest shooting backcourt ever. And sometimes you just shake your head. I mean, the ability to catch and shoot the basketball with defense all over you, I mean, is a thing of beauty.
All right, second thing I've noticed are the injuries that have been cropping up over, the last couple of weeks. Through those 3 games, the Warriors have sat Bogut, Iguodala, Lee, and O'Neal for either entire games or entire quarters. Now, Bogut and O'Neal both returned and were probably being kept out because Jackson was doing this whole Popovich thing. We were playing crappy teams, and he left them out. But D. Lee's got a hamstring strain. I'm not even sure which leg it's to.
Today, D. Lee said that if the game was today, he would not be able to play.
Okay.
Take that for what it's worth, because it's worth nothing today.
Yeah, but who the hell knows? I mean, he might be back on Friday, and then Iguodala has been out with right knee tendonitis, or also known as jumper's knee. Should we panic about these
He hasn't
gentlemen?
been jumping that much this season.
I didn't notice any jumping, but are we worried about this, or is it nothing?
I think it's all precautionary. If this was the playoffs, all of these guys would be playing. So it's just a chance to give some of them a rest, and they did it against a couple teams that they knew they'd be able to rest guys on.
You are the only one of us who has coaching experience. You are also the only one who is rational enough to actually answer this question without going over the top. You are their coach. Would you sit people? Would you be worried about them losing rhythm, or would you do what he's doing and give them some time off?
I sit people, definitely, against teams like Milwaukee and Orlando. And you've got the Spurs coming up, but you also knew that they were going to be sitting people on a back-to-back. So I think Jackson probably chose this week in particular because he looked at the schedule and said this would be a good time to shut some people down.
We got those 5 days now between the games, so they're not playing.
And Iguodala, he's needed 10 days off since he came back from his hamstring injury.
Right.
He never quite looked right, and you always thought, he could have used an extra 10 days.
So hopefully this puts us back in the place he should have had way back.
My response to your question is would you tell Greg Popovich that he should be playing his guys?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going to side with the best coach in the
And you
league.
got to trust him. That's absolutely right, which is a perfect segue to the next topic. We cannot beat the filthy Spurs. I am so tired of this team. I'm so tired of their quiet efficiency. I'm so tired of it doesn't matter who the hell is on the floor.
So tired that we can't be like them.
Oh my! I mean, for those who are not with us, when the Warriors played the Spurs this last Saturday, Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili, neither of which played at all. Now we didn't have Iguodala, but it still felt like playing the JV team.
And the Spurs were on a back-to-back.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a scheduled loss, and we still came up with absolutely nothing. I'm getting to the point where I'm fairly certain Greg Popovich could coach a D-League team to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, this dude just has our number. What the hell is going on with that?
Well, he has a lot of the league's number. I mean, they're in first place in the Western Conference, which is a stacked conference. I don't understand quite why his system works so well. And why can't anyone else copy it? Why can't it be replicated?
Right. Like the triangle or something. It should be something we can identify and then use somewhere else, right?
Yeah, and everyone always talks about how efficient they are and what their offense is, and they run this system, but nobody can quite explain why it's so effective and why nobody else can reproduce it.
My advice to Warrior fans, do not buy Spurs Warriors tickets. Every year, I want to see the Spurs come into town. They're not, it's not LeBron James, but these guys, it's a basketball clinic. And if you appreciate good basketball, you want to watch the Spurs play. But I haven't seen Tim Duncan play in 2 years, 3 years, and I keep getting suckered in.
How those stupid-ass American Express commercials go, tickets to the Warrior game, $400, bringing a friend to the Warriors game, cultural price for you, finding out that none of their stars are playing, complete bullshit. How the hell this happens every single time.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I'll be
it should be.
looking
I
out for it.
will put it out.
Should be.
I fell for the exact same thing that you did, Justin. In fact, I went to this game. A couple of quick stories before we move on. In fact, one, but it's an embarrassing one. We went to this game with a friend, in fact, Tommy, our drunken friend and occasionally out of control club promoter. We go in through the VIP entrance, sneak through. Our tickets don't allow us, but because I've done it before, they let us do it. Go down right before we go on the court. My stomach suddenly gets crazy sick. I mean, I am talking, I don't know, virus sick, like I drank some Mexican water or something. So now I'm living my nightmare. My normal thing is that I do not drop a deuce unless I'm at the house. If I don't have my home whites on, I'm not taking it, period. Didn't have that choice here. It just was what it was. Add on that I'm at the Oakland Coliseum. I would prefer take a dump in like Fallujah than the Oakland Coliseum.
Does the plumbing work?
Apparently, because that place did not get flooded. So anyways, I go into this bathroom and I just start tearing it up. It's a nightmare. I'm sitting in there literally living the worst possible case scenario. And it seems super busy outside, but I'm not paying attention to that. Then at some point, it goes crazy quiet. Like I'm taking a deuce during zombie times. Like there's nobody.
Well, because the game started, right? I imagine people went back.
Great question. I was thinking kind of the same thing. I'm not sure. And honestly, I wasn't really paying attention
You
on what was
start rushing
happening.
at that point because the game
just
started.
Just picture Dumb and Dumber in the laxative scene.
It was kind of like that. And like that, because of that, I wasn't picturing what was happening outside of the stall. I was only picturing what happened on the inside. I finally finished this filthy situation.
Was Tommy out there saying, "Are you okay in there?"
Tommy's sending me text messages, LOL, hell of exclamation points, all types of crazy stuff. I finally come out super embarrassed. Tommy's shaking his head, and he goes, you know what just happened? I'm like, what? Said, Patty Mills had to take a pregame piss right before the jump, but they were worried about people screwing with him. So Patty Mills went into your bathroom. They shut down the bathroom so that nobody would screw with him. Then he came back out. So the bottom line is, I assaulted Patty Mills' nose with my crap. When I was in there dying, that fool was in there taking a piss. So he kind of knows me, even if he couldn't pull me out of the lineup.
Oh, yeah, you almost gave that urinal fist bump, huh?
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I'm going to call BS. Like, I don't think players take...
I was going to say, where's the locker room? Isn't it like 10 steps the other way?
The only thing I can tell you for sure is that I took a filthy diarrhea in the Oakland Coliseum bathroom. I have no idea what happened beyond that. Now, I have no reason to believe that Tommy lied to me about the Patty Mills thing. We'll have to have him on.
Yeah, we're going to have to get the story from Tommy because he may just be screwing with you.
It's possible.
Yeah, and that seems like... I've met Tommy a couple times
He
now.
had to pick Patty Mills? You know, I mean, Tony Parker was in this game.
The Patty Mills is an odd choice.
I know, he could have given me Tony Parker.
No, because the game was about to start. Parker was out there for the tip. Patty Mills was perfect. He was on the end of the bench. He could have ran over there real quick.
Who knows if he was telling the truth.
Couldn't make it all the way to the locker room.
It is what it is. Last topic I want to cover, and for this one I got to lean on you, Justin. This whole Scalabrine thing. What the hell happened?
Nobody really knows for sure yet. We've gotten just up until right now, we've got a bunch of speculation on Twitter, but the facts that we know is that Brian Scalabrine is no longer on the bench for the Warriors, and it was Mark Jackson's decision. And when you hear the soundbite, Mark Jackson will let you know over and over and over again that it was his decision and his decision alone.
Any comment on your relationship with the current situation with Brian Scalabrine?
Well, Scal has been reassigned, difference in philosophies, and this is a coach's decision. I made this decision. I'm fortunate enough to have a ownership group and a management group that allow me to pick my staff and just going in different directions. So that's that.
Mark, what precipitated a change at this late point in the season with the kind of a difference in philosophy?
Just my decision. I'll leave it at that. I've made a decision. Wish him nothing but the very best. And again, this is my decision, and we move forward.
So, it's just kind of funny how much speculation the fourth coach on the bench can cause because,
So what was the back and forth? He wants to kick him. He wants to drop. Jackson wants to drop Scalabrine entirely from the team.
That's not clear.
Well,
not clear.
I think that's the insinuation that Jackson.
He wanted him off of his bench.
And what
he
happened
didn't
from
have
there?
the authority to do anything more than take him off the bench.
And I guess that's why you say that's the insinuation. I mean, you want a guy off the bench. You want to still just keep him around. I think you want him gone.
Right.
Yeah, and basically that's what it sounds like. I want to fire this guy, and the front office said, if only you had the power to do that.
Ooh, good for you. He will definitely be here.
What you want and what you get are two different things in life.
I feel like there's so many unresolved questions. Why did he want to kick him off? Was Scalabrine the leak on the team? Was he the kind of deep throat who was dropping knowledge back to the front office like that filthy bastard who comes on bachelor parties and then goes back and tells the bride about what the hell happened there?
That's the only explanation, honestly, that I could come up with right now. At this point in the season where Mark Jackson's seat is pretty hot.
Yeah.
He knows he's got to advance in the playoffs to keep his job, basically. And what other reason would there be? He stated specifically it was a difference in philosophy. And maybe that's because Brian Scalabrine had an offensive philosophy because we know Mark Jackson doesn't have one.
Ooh, maybe we should call plays on the offense. He's like, you need to get off my bench right now.
Exactly.
Right now. Get the hell off.
And they sent him to Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
That's the word right now. He's
Another
not
reason
actually
for
in
us to
Santa
go down
Cruz
there and check out the Santa Cruz team. I also think this is a terrible, terrible sign for Mark Jackson. If we're talking about Phil Jackson, who just came, Phil Jackson's a fourth assistant on the bench. Mark Jackson goes, look, this guy needs to get the hell out of there. And the Warriors are, no, we're keeping Phil. That's one thing. We're not talking about Phil Jackson. We're talking about the White Mamba, who has never coached anywhere. The idea that he said, look, me or the White Mamba. And they're like, we're not going to pick either. In fact, we're going to go ahead and keep White Mamba. And you, Jackson, can shut the hell up is not a real good sign for this guy's tenure, but it is what it is. Scotty, do you think Jackson is still a Warriors coach in 2 years?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think his job is as insecure as you guys are saying.
Yeah.
You guys just made the playoffs last year for the first time.
Right.
That's a step in the right direction. They're going to be back in the playoffs this year. Like, let the guy keep building this thing.
When you say you guys, you mean we, right?
No, I mean you guys, because the Wizards are in the playoffs this year too, baby.
I think I've been pretty clear from the beginning that I feel like it's a front office thing. We've gotten better with the talent, and in fact, I do feel like the talent is better this year, and the team isn't necessarily better. So, I think there's probably about 10 other coaches who could easily come in and do what Mark Jackson has done over the last 2 years.
Much like the Denny Green rabbit hole, I'm not going to jump down this one. This deserves its own segment, undoubtedly. I will just reserve the right to say I disagree with that.
And I'll hold you to that, naming that 10 too.
Let me go.
No. We're not going there. We're not going there. We'll revisit.
I got 10.
Over under, how many he actually has? 5. Over under.
What do you mean, like right now?
Yeah.
Now, are we talking available coaches? Because I'm saying that he's
coaches who are available.
Coaches who are available.
I'd like to hear it. I don't think you can name more than 5.
I can't name 5 coaches that are available right now. That's,
okay.
That's different.
Perfect end to that segment. All right, let's move on to what I'm hoping will be a lot of fun. We've done a few of these in the past. We haven't done one for a while. It's the All Huddle team. The idea and the concept's real simple. You come up with the prerequisite. In this case, it's being bad crazy. Then we go through by position, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, etc., and then name all the nominees, and then we each select our nomination for each position. You guys ready to go?
Yeah. Let's
throw them out there.
Let's do it. All right, why don't we start with point guard and start with a heavy favorite, my boy Delonte West. Let me quickly explain why I think this guy is a perfect candidate. One, he was once pulled over on a 3-wheeled motorcycle. Now, that would be enough, but he got pulled over because he pulled in front of a cop. That would be enough. Then when he got pulled over in front of the cop, he admitted that he had a gun in his waistline. Again, that would be enough. And then after the cops heard that, they started to search him, and they found a .357 Magnum strapped to his leg and a shotgun in a guitar case slung around his back like Desperado. So he's got the 3-wheeled motorcycle gun arrest. Then he's got the whole he may or may not have LeBron's mom. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I don't know any of them. But if you earn that distinction, you are definitely on the all crazy list, right?
Yeah, but I want to say it wasn't his fault.
What, him LeBron's mom?
I think that he was a natural 2-guard and he was forced to play point guard, and it really just screwed his whole perception on life.
And he thought to himself, you know what? What I need right now is a 3-wheeled motorcycle and a guitar case with a shotgun.
Well, he also has an interview out there with somebody about that arrest, and I forget what it was, but it is a tremendous interview because he has no idea where he is. It's like
Baron Davis style, abducted by aliens giving an interview.
Yeah, he's just like out of his mind. And that's the type of thing where you realize once you actually get to see the person and realize that the stories you hear are indeed the person.
Right. I mean, imagine the thought process, and not that any of us would ever have it, but if we're driving on a 3-wheeled motorcycle with guns strapped to us, imagine how careful. If I've drank one beer, I drive like 65 miles an hour, I got my cruise control, I'm in this slow lane, like all this. This dude had enough guns to take on the United States military on a 3-wheeled motorcycle, and his first decision was cutting off a cop. So he's not real clear-minded. Now, we got a lot of other...
The guy is interviewing Delonte, and he's saying, yes, I want to talk to you about when you got pulled over with those guys. He's like... Delonte's like, yeah, man, I read that. That was crazy.
Who was that dude? Hell yeah. The second guy, and this one has got to be right up your alley, Scotty, is Gilbert Arenas. And in fact, unifies us, played for both teams. Now, Gilbert's got a lot of crazy stuff. We know about the gun thing he had with Critton, where they drew guns on each other because of gambling debt. That alone should probably do it. But there's an entire article about how crazy Gilbert Arenas is. And they got a lot of different things that they pointed out. One of which is that he's got a 13.5-foot shoe, but he has a 14. I was going to say,
does he live in that shoe?
He has a 14.5 shoe, literally size 14.5, but he wears 13 because he thinks the 14 makes his feet look too big. He also was once trying to figure out which team he was going to sign with, the Warriors or the Clippers, and he flipped a coin 10 times, assigned each one. And then because he didn't want to be predictable, heads was the Warriors, tails was the Clippers, or I think not the Clippers, I'm sorry, Washington. And when it came up the Warriors, he chose the Clippers because he didn't want to be
Wizards?
predictable. God damn it, the Wizards. Easier said than actually done by him.
You might make this team by the end of this.
I will shoot you in the face and drive away on my three-wheeled motorcycle right now. The other thing this fool did is he converted his Washington area house to Colorado altitude.
Yeah, hyperbolic chamber.
Oh,
You
yeah.
heard all about this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He had a Shark Tank. I think he was trying to get put in. I don't know if it talks about that, but
Hey, the things you can do when you have nothing but time on your hands because you haven't played a game in 2 years and you're making about over $20 million a year. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Gilbert Arenas not the highest paid player in the NBA this year? I think he's on the list. I think he's still being paid,
Are
right?
the Wizards still paying him?
I think so.
How about the Clippers?
boy, Gilbert, it's just a tragedy what happened with him.
How far he fell?
How far he fell and how quickly he fell. Kind of just still makes me sad. I got this Gilbert Arenas bobblehead at home.
Is it holding a
You
gun?
were saving it
No.
so you could sell it down the line when he made the Hall of Fame.
Does his shoes look big?
Well, yeah, no.
It's got big ass head and big ass feet.
Is he in Colorado attitude?
For a while, the head fell off. The spring broke or whatever.
Now that's realistic right
Wait a
there,
minute, and
man.
you kept it? The bobblehead fell off and you still own this bobblehead?
Yeah, it was a real. It kind of like went with his career where, for a while I kept putting the head back on, and then eventually I'm just like, you know what,
I'm just gonna leave the head next to the feet.
this guy's not coming back. It's a done.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, I do. Just without the head though.
I can't believe that didn't make the list of 10. That his head fell off and he continued to play. That's amazing. Last point guard is Stephon Starberry. Now, while he was in the league, things kind of stayed together. We saw him get upset a couple of times, get angry, but nothing above the average anger you would see from a competitive dude. But then he left and things got a little bit strange. For example, here's a 2-minute video where he eats Vaseline.
Oh, my man, my little brother Hassan, he told me that his grandmother, who's almost 100 years old, told him when you can't get your voice back, take some Vaseline and swallow it. And it'll help you.
And Stefan also had a 5-minute video where all he does is cry to a slow song. We won't subject you to that, but it's there. Those are our nominees, gentlemen, for point guard. Who's your pick?
Delonte West, man.
Gotta go Delonte.
I don't think there's any question at all. He could be hiding outside here waiting to kill all of us if we didn't say that. So nicely played.
Congratulations, Delonte. You finally won something.
Well deserved. Well deserved. We need to get this dude back in the league. Off we go to shooting guard. This one also has a local flavor. Sprewell. The first story is an easy one. The choking of his coach. Maybe the craziest story I can remember as a fan. Do you guys remember when this went down?
Oh yeah, that was the beginning of the end, man.
Yeah, but is there anything beyond this?
Of him being crazy?
Yeah.
Talking about feeding his children on a $21 million contract.
Yeah, before
It was stupid comments more than stupid incidents, I think.
anything beyond this, though, Scotty. This guy in a practice beat the hell out of his coach, took a shower, then came back upstairs and beat the hell out of his coach again. Like the type of crazy anger that would be. We've all had those flashes. Something hits you in the face, you get angry immediately and you want to do something. But you go take a shower, you're going to calm down. That's normal reaction. This dude took a shower and spent the whole time like, oh, hell no, went up there and choked him. So I don't feel like we need anything else.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with him being on this list, but I'm just saying ultimately I don't think he's going to be my nominee because I don't think there's a lot to back him up other than that incident.
Something I run over and choke you just to see how that ultimately affects you. Well, if you weren't
Well, there is a long list of guys who have been suspended for a full year by the NBA. So move on. Let's get to him.
All right. The other guy I got here is Vernon Maxwell. Principally and first and foremost, the guy was known as Mad Max, so that should be enough. He is also suspended only 10 games, seemingly a small amount, for running in the stands to punch a fan. He was arrested for failing to pay child support and was ordered to pay a woman that he infected with herpes. So he's got some interesting off-the-court stuff. Also, with
does that make him crazy, or
I don't
know how to factor in the whole herpes story into his nomination.
I don't know. Well, here, you tell us. Why is Mad Max crazy?
Well, I don't know. That's why I was waiting for you to break down his career stats.
Well, one additional incident is he got in a fight in a weight room and started throwing weights at players.
Okay, that just moved him up the list a little bit.
See, you with me, you with Scotty, Justin. You remember that. My boy has got my back consistently. Those are the 2 nominations I have for shooting guard. You guys got anyone else you want to throw in?
I got to throw in Chris Mills.
Small forward.
There's small forward.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Stop jumping the gun.
All right, well, why don't we move on to small forward, because Chris Mills is my boy. He's my crazy-ass boy.
We will get there in a heartbeat. For now, shooting guard.
Mad Max, man. That guy is the greatest.
Greatest
crazy shooting guard.
But that's kind of, that's Barry bias right there. That's my boy. That's hometown crazy lunatic.
I'm going all Huddle unity. I'm backing you, Scotty. Mad Max, baby. Count it up. All right, small forward.
I will choke you.
That won't be enough for Scotty. Won't be impressed. Let's move it to small forward. Let's not bury the lead.
Because he doesn't breathe.
Why do you like Chris Mills?
There's nothing better than going onto the Portland team bus and challenging the entire team. That's it, right there. I mean, he had me. I didn't even know he was crazy until that happened. This was before the pre-internet generation, right. So maybe there was other stories that we just never heard about, but back then, it only took one story, and that was it.
And this is 2002 against the Jailblazer team. Supposedly, he gets into a fight with Bonzi Wells. They say we'll settle it, later on. Mills actually meant that, stopped the Portland Trailblazer bus with his car, and then boarded it, allegedly, with a loaded 9mm gun. Allegedly. If that is true, my God.
With or without the gun, though.
That is one hell of a move.
If he stepped foot on that bus and said anything, he qualifies for this exercise.
And you quickly brushed over the most important part to me is the Jailblazers team.
Let's name the players on that team. You had Bonzi and Rashid.
Right, you had Rashid. You had Damon Stoudemire was on it.
Wasn't Scottie Pippen on that team? Wasn't that by the time
Damon Stoudemire was in the back? He was just high. He didn't give a shit. But Dale Davis was on that team.
Right.
Dale Davis would.
Oh yeah.
He would throw down. Who else?
Just Scotty with his nose. If he headbutted you, he could split you in two. I mean, I would not want to screw with any of those guys.
Yeah, and I don't think we have time to go through the entire Jailblazer team.
We don't.
But because we got other nominations.
Just trying to build my boy Chris Mills' case.
The other 2 nominations can be told in a single story. In fact, a single phrase: the malice in the palace. This would be Steven Jackson and Ron Artest, forever synonymous with one another because they decided to rush the stands, beat the hell out of paying customers. Now, Steven Jackson has other qualifications, as does Artest. One for Steven Jackson, there was, and let me make sure I get this year right. I don't remember the year. Doesn't matter. Steven Jackson exits a strip club. Somebody hits him with a car, and he immediately pulls out a 9 and fires 5 times into the sky. I loved this idea. I love the idea of him getting hit by a car, and his first reaction was like, bang, 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 just in the air. This dude's obviously crazy, but before we
got to get 911's attention somehow.
Why make a call?
Was that before or after the malice at the palace?
I want to say it was
after.
Yeah, I want to say it was after as well.
Now that's got to take the cake for craziness. I mean, you have so much scrutiny on you, and that is how you. No, it must have been before though.
He probably wanted to fire it
with the teammates. It was before.
I believe he wanted to fire it at the car, and then had some last minute, angel on his shoulder guidance. Ooh, maybe you should point that a little bit higher because this will be a bigger deal.
Then he came to the Warriors and got the praying hands with the gun in his hand.
Gun, exactly right. And before we get too far. Here is Steven Jackson in an interview with ESPN talking about his experience in the Palace, and more specifically, a conversation he and Ron Artest had after that experience.
You mentioned Ron Artest. You have said that Ron Artest never thanked you for what you did at the Palace. Why do you think he should have thanked you?
Because I don't think he was thinking at the time. I like the funniest thing, me and Jamal Tinsley, every time I see him, we laugh at this. Right after the brawl, we're in the locker room, and this is why I say he never said thank you. We're in the locker room. So we're sitting there, legs all scratched up from hopping over the bleachers, our adrenaline pump because we done laid a couple people out. We feeling like we did something, you know what I mean? We all sit back, and Ron Artest, a.k.a. Metal World Peace, leans back and look at Jamal Tinsley and asks us, do you think we're going to get in trouble? I say, Ron, trouble? You lucky we still have a job. That was the funniest thing. That was the funniest thing ever. Trouble? You lucky we have a job, Ron? Crazy.
Well, hold on. Knowing that you're lucky you had a job, you went into the stands, way high up into the stands. What made you go in there?
You enjoyed that, Steven. You looked like you were enjoying that. Admit now that you were enjoying punching the customers.
Hey, well, let me say this. All the racial slurs I done heard, all the things I done heard about my mom and my basketball game and my kids and all this, it felt good to punch a fan one time. I'm not gonna lie. I regret it. I ain't gonna lie, I regret it because I lost $3 million behind and I almost lost my job. I regret it, but when I initially went in the stands, I went up there to help Ron. If you look at the tape, I go up to a row above Ron because I was trying to grab him. Well, as I got up there to grab him, another fan threw another beer in his face. I felt like he got assaulted at the time, so I felt like if you up here, you should be breaking up, but you throw a beer, you deserve a lick too, and he got it.
You only regret the punishment. You don't regret the action. You regret the reaction.
Right, the $3 million.
That's it.
That's all. That's all. That's all.
All right, I don't say this too frequently. Please watch the video. I've watched this tape 100,000 times. I've heard this quote a whole bunch of times. But when Steven Jackson talks about going after that guy who threw the beer, I watched it a little bit closer. Oh my, that dude did throw a beer in Ron Artest's face, and Steven Jackson beat the out of that dude.
That was vicious. I mean, that was insane. Yeah, I've watched this so many times, but each time I see a whole new part of that malice in the palace.
That shows the difference between Ron Artest and Steven Jackson, too, because Ron Artest kind of aimlessly went into the stands, just kind of picked somebody and went after him. And Steven Jackson, he picked a target and he destroyed that
Annihilated him. No, you're absolutely right. Decision time, gentlemen. It's not an easy one. Chris Mills, Ron Artest, or Steven Jackson?
I'm going Chris Mills.
I go Steven Jackson because the fact that he's still so happy about hitting a fan means the guy's crazy. He doesn't understand you can't get on TV and say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just his response. The idea of him actually admitting, look, I loved hitting the fan. I don't regret it at all. I regret the money I lost, but I don't regret punching this fan at all. Shows kind of a lack of foresight. That said, boarding the Trailblazers bus with a gun, I'm going Chris Mills.
And let's also not forget that he may have lost $3 million there, but he stole at least $5 million from the Warriors on the way out the door.
I don't want to talk about that. It'll make me crazy sad. I do want to move over to power forward. Just a couple of nominations here. Dennis Rodman, who we all know how crazy he is. We don't have to go through the ins and outs. I will add one thing I didn't know about. After being drafted by your Pistons, and the year before he was traded off to the Spurs, he was found naked in the team's parking lot in the back of a truck with a loaded shotgun.
Wow, that's early in his career. I thought
before the batshit crazy antics, huh?
I feel like that was pretty bad crazy. Yeah, the whole naked thing and the shotgun thing. Who knows what was going to happen next? Who knows what led to that? Maybe there's a perfectly good explanation, but fairly strange. The second guy I have is Birdman, and I'm doing this at your guys' suggestion. Why Birdman? What made him crazy?
Because he's bat crazy.
Have you guys seen Birdman? I mean, you don't get that type of tattoos, that type of haircut without being a little crazy.
Time to watch the Birdman fly. Now, here, I guess you're right. Certainly the amount of tats he has, like there's no space in between at all. For me, though, this is an easy one. It's got to be Dennis Rodman, or you guys have some votes towards the Birdman?
Not only would I like to agree and second your nomination, but I'd like to make him the team captain.
He's going to have to fight and kill Delonte West, but he might, they both have shotguns. Who knows which way that goes?
Yeah, Dennis Rodman, definitely.
All right. Final position, center. Surprisingly few amount of crazy players at the center position. In fact, it was this player, DeMarcus Cousins, who made me come up with this segment. I feel like he is a petulant little bastard. He is crazy because he has all-star, all-world talent and is seemingly always upset and always sad and always whiny. But beyond him, at least compared to the credentials of these other psychopaths, they kind of pale in comparison. There's not a whole lot of other people out there.
I went on NBAReference.com looking for, the crazy category,
Yeah.
because, like you said, there's no centers out there, man. I literally wanted to look at a list of names. Like, there's got to be one crazy son of a bitch in there.
No, DeMarcus is definitely the guy, though.
Yeah.
He is, and like you said, it's because he almost is throwing away so much talent that makes him seem so crazy. Who in their right mind would do that?
Be like a millionaire. Be like, I don't know, Donald Trump came out and was like, I hate having all this money. Like, this is terrible. It makes me so sad. You know, you are living a charmed life, buddy. Accept it. Enjoy it. You don't have to be so sad all the time. The only other name I had was Scott Pollard because he used to paint his fingernails black, but that's not really crazy. So to me, it's not.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not. So it looks like I got DeMarcus. I imagine we all agree.
Yeah,
unless someone's got another suggestion.
And we leave anybody out? Anybody miscellaneous worth mentioning, or you guys feel good about the team?
I'm sure we'll think of things after the show's over, and maybe people will also call us out on that. But I think the team is solid.
Yeah, please do. I want some more suggestions on this, man. I'm hoping that people hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, whatever.
Absolutely do that. Well, we're running out of time, so let me give us a quote before we jump into the closing. Another shot from our boy Charles Barkley. I still have you to thank for the suggestion. Barkley was once talking about fat-ass Oliver Miller, and he said, quote, "The only way he could jump high enough to touch the rim was if they put a Big Mac on it." Thanks for hanging out, you guys. We love it every single week. Remember, we can be found on Twitter, Warriors Huddle. Our email account is warriorshuddle@gmail.com. Our website is warriorsworld.net, and you can find us on numerous podcast services, Stitcher, iTunes, all types of things, where we'd really appreciate if you drop us a review, perhaps even rate us, and subscribe. That would be phenomenal. Justin, where you at?
Trapped in Golden State on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr.com. Holler at me.
See you next week.
Good.